But my point here is that it's getting brazen, out of the closet, on the streets, in your face, 2 Peter 5:8, right here in northern Colorado Springs. Because the dirt that we walk on, those of us who live here, contains Compassion International, Focus on the Family, David C. Cook, and other ministries that are making a difference in the world. So the war over where we live is getting very real, and we now have candidates on the ballot who could potentially be elected in November who endorse all of this. That's how real it's gotten. So the advocates for D20 kids, let's say that's another conversation. Advocates for D20, so a group of parents and myself, and some are in the room, I'm not sure where our people are sitting, but we saw some of the things happening in our school board, in our school district, in our schools, and said, this is out of control, and we want to wrestle some of that control back. They're our schools. They're our children. We pay everybody's salaries. We own it all. Yet the tail has been wagging the dog in education for 60 years because 60 years ago we dropped the ball and let control be taken over by the extreme left, and now they own everything ideologically. If you are applying for a teaching position at a major American university, and you have on your Facebook page pro-Trump and support for the Republican Party, what are your chances of getting hired for that job? So we put together the Advocates for D20 Kids as a manner of doing some things to re-control our education system. Our number one mission, this organization is now about 4 months old, we're in our infancy, is recruitment of the uninformed. Most of you did not know what you just saw, your jaws dropped to the floor. You had no idea that this was taking place right in our backyards. So number one is to recruit the uninformed, to find parents or grandparents, or just concerned citizens. You know, if you live in school district 20 or 11 or whatever, and you don't have kids in the school system, you still have about 1,600 reasons a year to be involved and concerned, because you pay taxes in that district. They're still your schools, they're still your sidewalks, they're still your teachers, they're still your Sharpies. You're paying for all of it. And number two is to come up with a duplicatable organizational structure. So I'm somewhat of an organization builder. So what we wanted to do and what I want to do and what I'm focused on doing is building an organization that is duplicatable. So those of us who are in positions of leadership in the organization, and we started with about 12 people, about 12 or 14 of us launched this organization. But if we are all on a cruise ship and the Hindenburg goes down, or the Titanic goes down, the organization needs to be able to survive without the 14 of us, right? So that is an organizational structure that is duplicatable. So we put together a structure that is a top-down leadership committee, and here is our mission statement: to respectfully advocate for District 20 kids in pursuit of academic excellence through strong character, parental rights, and school choice. Amazingly, there are people who have problems with that. You should have the ability to, if your child isn't flourishing in a school, you should have the ability to take them out of that school and put them in a different one. It should be parent and child focused. So our organization is made up of committees and structures. And I'm mentioning this because if you're in District 20 and you've been wondering how can I get involved, here you go. So we have a leadership committee, there's about 14 of us, as I previously mentioned, an outreach committee, which I'm going to get into in a lot of depth here in a minute, IT and technical, because you have to have a website, you have to have social media, what have you, marketing and public relations. Out there at our table, you'll see the product of some of that committee's work. We have an intercessory prayer committee, because all the other committees are useless if you don't have that. And when the time comes, we actually will have candidate support. So I want to run you through these real quickly. Our leadership committee, we are chaired by a gentleman named Brian Moody. Brian's not here tonight, but very smart, community activist, lives near TCA's Central Campus, has 7 kids, most of whom are still in the school system. We have a comms director, Claudia is here somewhere. IT, Joel, some of you do know Joel, and our secretary is Sarah. Sarah is here in the room somewhere, I think, hiding in the back. Outreach committee, this is a very important committee. And again, I'm going through this. If you live in different district and you want to do something like this, here's your blueprint. Just ask me for this presentation. So when somebody comes through the door and says, hey, I'd like to get involved, I like what you're doing, they need to be contacted, right? They need to get a phone call. They need to be plugged in so they don't get lost in the shuffle. That's what our outreach committee does. And then once we find out what people's talents, gifts, and abilities are, plug them into a role that makes sense for them, that maximizes their gifts and their talents. Board meeting. So a portion underneath the outreach committee is we have board meetings in District 20 every other week, every other Thursday. And we have a goal of having at least 50 people at every board meeting. And this committee head develops a schedule and helps members figure out when and where to be at the board meetings. So it's not the same 50 people over and over again, the same 20 people over and over again. We're mixing it up. So you're going to be there November 1st, March 15th, June 3rd kind of thing. Because our board needs our support. Because our board meetings, and I know Ivy is here somewhere. Where are you, Ivy? She can testify to what this looks like. So at our board meetings, the left in our city shows up and beats the conservatives over the head almost every other week. They very rarely talk about education. They very rarely talk about childhood education. They just come and beat up on the conservatives on the board. This is the sort of thing that our board committees, that our board members in District 20 have to tolerate.